Nobody is getting fat on chicken breast, brown rice, and potatoes. Hey, everybody. I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. This is one of these topics where when people are looking at all of these factors, they always look at, oh, this food or that food it's causing fat gain. And then others will point out, well, it's about calories in versus calories out. But the fact of the matter is what people are not understanding is number one, the simplicity of calories in, calories out isn't that straightforward. It's not like, hey, I burn X amount of calories irrespective of what I eat, okay? Because what you eat absolutely impacts that. And calories that cannot be stored in any capacity, there's oftentimes mechanisms by which they are expelled from the body. Okay, so we need a context for that. Also keeping in mind there's vast differences in thermic effect, digestion and everything involved in breaking foods down before we can even get to the calories. So there's a very dynamic area there when it comes to that. Then we also have to deal with the appetite and both the appetite and the energy level in. Okay, because that's a big deal. In other words, the hungrier you are, the easier it is to gain body fat. This is not a difficult concept to understand because the hungrier you are, the more food you're going to eat. And the more food that you eat, the more likely you are to get more calories. Again, very simple. The thermic effect, energy, all of that. Well, we're talking calories in, calories out. The more energy that you use, the more energy you have. Also, the higher thermic effects and everything like that are from food, the more your calories out go up. Therefore, you can eat more without gaining fat. So that model is absolutely correct, but it is more nuanced than that. In other words, your calories out will not be the same if I give you 3,000 calories of 6 completely different meal plans, completely different foods. Your calories out will not be the same on those 6 things, even if they're all 3,000 calories in. Then you have to factor and look at those foods. And I think people forget this, that we don't store everything that we eat as fat. Not everything has the real potential to store as body fat, particularly subcutaneous body fat. We need to be clear on that. We do not store protein ever as body fat. That has never occurred even once in the lab. That's a hypothetical pathway. We haven't been able to actually get humans to do it. Experts have tried. They can't actually activate it. But it is hypothetically possible. It is hypothetically possible to gain a small amount of body fat from protein, but it's never been successfully done and observed, in spite of the best efforts. Like literally, let's just make people eat 500 grams of protein and see if we can get some of it to store. No, doesn't happen. So there's all of that to consider, but then carbohydrates can only be stored in small quantities as visceral fat. They're never stored under the skin. So in other words, all of the fat under your skin, between your muscles and your skin, right? All of it comes from fat that you eat, every last single drop of it. That is what we have found in the lab. And we, I mean the human race, not we as in me personally. People bring that up. So let's look at why I mentioned those sort of foods. And I'm not saying you have to eat just those things, but you guys get the idea. No one's getting fat from that. Why? Chicken breast, extremely low fat, almost entirely protein. It is a food that is 95% protein. Protein has an extremely high thermic effect. We know that protein overfeeding actually causes fat loss in the lab. Okay, protein overfeeding causes fat loss. You cannot force feed enough protein to gain body fat. You can't even force feed enough protein to create a calorie surplus. It's been tried. Researchers have tried this in the lab. I personally know someone, I'm friends with someone who was one of the researchers who tried to do this. Okay? In other words, if you take people to maintenance calories and then try to get them to eat those same macros and then add hundreds of grams of protein, they don't gain fat. In fact, they struggle to even sometimes hit their food intake unless you're giving them junk food at that point. If it's food they're comfortable eating already that has good satiety, they will start losing weight when you try to force that protein down. So again, it's not happening from chicken. Absolutely not. Ridiculous. There's trace amounts of fat in chicken breast. Now, fattier chicken, sure. So when I make these statements, people say, what about these higher fat, low carb diets? People lose weight on those. Of course they do. But you can also gain fat on those. And that's the point. In other words, I'm talking about how people are getting fat. I'm not even talking about weight loss. So understand that difference. Hey, just because you're like, well, I eat so much rice, I can't lose weight. Okay, but the rice is not storing as body fat. You're not getting fat from the rice. You're getting fat from the other stuff you're eating with it. But yes, in theory, if you eat enough rice, it could absolutely stop your weight loss. Of course it can. Still do a calories in, calories out. But let's talk about, mention brown rice. I'm going to mention potatoes. Look at the satiety index on potatoes. They're extremely hard to overeat. Try to eat 2,000 calories of boiled potatoes. Not talking about butter. Keep in mind, people say, I can overeat potatoes. Well, when you're dumping 1,000 calories of butter on it and bacon bits and sour cream. But potatoes? Tell me you're going to eat 3,000 calories of potatoes? I don't think so. You would be vomiting. Most of you out there would be vomiting it up. Assuming you could even force it down, you'd be puking your guts up. So don't pretend that you can do it. We get someone who's going to challenge it. They're going to try to do it on camera now. Okay. Same thing, brown rice. We deal with how much of it we excrete. Then we deal with the thermic effect from too many carbohydrates. Keep in mind, if we carb overfeed and there's not enough fat present in your diet to gain any significant body fat, okay, in other words, it's really low. You gain fat so slow that you will never actually get fat. You'll gain trace amounts of fat. We're not storing the carbs. We tend to just burn it off as heat. This is what happens in carbohydrate overfeeding studies where, 1,000 extra calories of carbs are thrown in. What happens? Thermic effect goes way up. Energy turnover goes way up. They don't store anything in the first day. They sweat their butt off. They gain some water weight, but not fat. Okay? But then we're dealing with higher total energy turnover. When you eat very large amounts of carbs, particularly when you're physically active, your metabolism, you're not your base metabolism, but your TDE tends to go up because your thyroid goes up, your thermic effect goes up, your NEAT goes up. Okay? People are not getting fat from this. They're getting fat from eating large amounts of fat. They're getting fat from eating large amounts of hyperpalatable sugars that negatively affect insulin resistance, like all refined sugars. Okay, people are getting fat from eating fatty foods and too much sugar. That is why people are getting fat. They are not getting fat from rice and potatoes or lean protein sources. It does not happen. That is not driving the obesity epidemic. Not getting fat from eating fruit. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.